here. 11/13/13, November 13th, 2013. Welcome to another live edition of Fire Your MD Now. That's exactly correct. That's what I want you to do. Fire your medical doctor now. I have to do continuing education credit as keep my license up, right? Every doctor does. Different medical professions have different requirements. Different state legislative bodies have different requirements for how many continuing education credits their physicians need to do in their particular states. I'm licensed in the great state of Minnesota to practice naturopathic medicine. There are only 16, I believe, 16 states currently that license and regulate the practice of naturopathic medicine in the United States. And last night, I did a webinar for continuing education credit. And a very interesting way to get continuing education credits, by the way. We love high-tech stuff. I do webinars, 1, 2, 3, 4 hours of webinars a week on most weeks when I'm not traveling. Been doing webinars for over 2.5 years now. They are a fantastic way to reach a very large, broad, and wide audience. But last night was my first dipping in the waters of continuing education credit via a webinar. And interestingly enough, the webinar was conducted by a gentleman who's both an MD and an ND. And I found that very interesting. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to attend, because I wanted to just kind of sit back in the wings and understand, just get a bird's eye view of, try to dial into the Weltanschauung, the world view of this guy, because he's a medical doctor, an MD, and a naturopathic doctor. I think there's only 3 or 4 people in the world with that designation. There might be more, but I went to school with one. Actually, I went to school with 2 people who were MDs who had cast off that burden and gone to naturopathic medical school. Very interesting thing to do. And I was not let down because this was a very, very good webinar. The webinar was about prescription medications, the top 20 prescription medications, kind of like a refresher course in prescription meds, how they work, why they work, how they're prescribed, when they'll kill you. What's that you say? A naturopathic doctor learning about prescription meds? That's exactly what I said when the game was afoot years ago, headed by Dr. Bruce Milliman from Seattle, Washington, to give naturopathic physicians prescriptive rights for pharmaceutical agents. My head practically exploded when that happened. The rationale, of course, was, well, if naturopathic doctors have the ability to prescribe drugs, then naturopathic doctors will be able to also have the ability to take patients off of drugs, right? So it gave us a legal foothold to be able to advise, without fear of imprisonment, patients in states in which we were licensed to how to come off of their prescription meds safely, effectively, and efficiently. However, it backfired, because naturopathic doctors now are using drugs in their practice. And last night, it was fascinating to me to just kind of sit back and listen to the point of view that this physician brought to bear on the treatment of medicine. He gave me a couple of clinical pearls, some insight into a couple of things that I'll pass along. But it actually, in a very kind of ironic, twisty way, reinforced what I've been saying on this radio program every day for the last year. Your MD is trained in a particular worldview, and that worldview is overarching. That worldview exists in the mind of an MD, no matter whom they are. I don't care if they're a liver specialist, a kidney specialist, a brain specialist, the Surgeon General of the U.S., or a good old family practicing MD somewhere in the Midwest. It doesn't matter. The ideology of the MD is distinct. the tiger does not change his stripes. And the methodology is that the human body is a random amalgamation of biochemicals that has no idea how to fix itself. The gentleman that gave the webinar last night, lots of very factual information, by the way. It was a great webinar. This guy brings a lot of knowledge to the table, but it was completely allopathic. I had to bite my tongue all the way through the webinar to not, disrupt the thing and spout off naturopathic, pontifications, right? I kind of dialed it in, and I was a little proud of myself that I actually dialed it in like that, but nonetheless. Very interesting thing that he told us is that when he was in school, he was told that heartburn is a reflection of the inefficiency of the human body. That heartburn is a reflection of the stupidity and the inefficiency of the human body, and that it was an overproduction of stomach acid, which was some type of evolutionary bad trait that hasn't been worked out by evolution, that the stomach just made too much stomach acid, and it was because the body's not perfect, and it was just a thing, and so it was the doctor's job to get rid of stomach acid. My head exploded when he told me that. He was trained that it's the doctor's job to get rid of stomach acid because you don't really need it. Don't need stomach acid. Well, what are you kidding me? It can burn a hole in your esophagus. You don't need that stuff. Don't need your tonsils. Don't need your gallbladder. Don't need most of your liver. Don't need 2 kidneys. Don't need your appendix. Might as well give yourself fake hips and fake knees into the bargain. Might as well cut your breasts off preventively, and they convinced Angelina Jolie to do that, so that you don't get breast cancer. And on and on and on and on and on and on we go down the rabbit hole of insanity. MD-directed allopathic reductionistic insanity. Oh, by the way, I should add hypocritical into my list of adjectives describing MDs. I think I will. I'll start using that on a regular basis. Because with MDs, it's all about double-blind this and double-blind that, and show me the proof, boys, and let's prove it scientifically. It's all about the scientific method, right? Show me the research. Well, show me the research. There's been no research that shows any relationship between probiotics and the health of the gut. Blah-de-blah-de-blah-de, so says Dr. Huffenpuff. Whatever, right? It's all about show me the research and let's be science-based and clinically verified. Well, it may interest you to understand that 2 of the top 20 drugs, I'm reading down the list here, 2 of the top 20 drugs, the mechanism of action is unknown. The mechanism of action is unknown. Acetaminophen, Tylenol, they don't know how it works. Don't know how it works. Have no idea how it works. No idea whatsoever. They don't know how Tylenol works, and yet Tylenol arguably is one of the most commonly prescribed it's not prescribed because it's an over-the-counter med, but they don't know how it works. No idea whatsoever how it works. Also, ACE inhibitors, they know how they work, but they're not really sure exactly of the mechanism. And there's one more. I'm looking at the list here. There's one more drug. I'll find it over the break. Very commonly prescribed drug. The MDs have no idea how it works, and yet they prescribe it. No problem. No problem prescribing it. Have no idea on earth how it works. Well, it might do this. It might do this. It might be this chemical pathway. It might be that chemical pathway. We don't know. But we're going to recommend you take it anyway because we have clinical experience. We know through the practice of medicine that consistently produces results. Now, when alternative medical practitioners do the same thing with homeopathy, for instance, with stuff that hasn't been double-blinded and hasn't been researched because the homeopaths don't have $60 million to throw at that like the drug companies do. It's chump change to them. When we see the same thing happening over and over and over and over and over and over and over with the clinical trial, or with just the practice of medicine, it's placebo. But when the MDs do it, It's not placebo. It's, the drug effect, and it's the practice of medicine, and we have to make it up as we go along, boys. But when anybody else in any other profession does exactly the same thing, they're called quacks. And this is the hypocrisy that's built into the medical profession. It's the hypocrisy that's built into the medical profession. By the way, do not take Tylenol if you're drinking alcohol. Do not take Tylenol if you're drinking alcohol. As a matter of fact, the stuff that I learned last night about Tylenol makes me want to say in the public square, don't ever take Tylenol for anything. If there's acetaminophen, that's the technical term for Tylenol, causes liver failure. A little part of the acetaminophen molecule gets processed into a nasty little chemical that destroys your liver. And this process, more and more of this nasty little chemical gets converted into the nasty little chemical from Tylenol if there is alcohol in your system. So do not take Tylenol. Do not take it. Don't take acetaminophen. That's my advice, my across-the-board generic boilerplate advice. Stop taking Tylenol. Switch it out to something else. Switch it out to something else because you do not want to risk liver failure, for goodness sake. That's not a good idea. And by the way, what we are up to is helping people to get so healthy that the stuff that's causing pain and inflammation in the body will go away. So you won't need pain meds because there won't be any more pain. Why isn't there any more pain? Because your body has fixed it. Now, why has your body fixed it? Because your body has a God-given ability to fix and to heal itself. And this is the point of view that the MD lacks. The MD does not believe that your body can fix itself. The holistic physicians know that your body can fix itself. This is one of the biggest differences there is in these two types of medicine. Stick around, folks. I'm going to tell you why Xanax is a big bad voodoo daddy when we come back. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. This is Fire Your MD Now. Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, welcoming you to another live edition of Fire Your MD Now. So I'm talking about a continuing education thing that I did last night. And this was for pharmacy credits because naturopathic doctors can prescribe drugs in most of the states that we're licensed in. And so in order to keep your license up, you have to take a certain amount of continuing education in pharmacy education, and I did mine last night. Some very interesting stuff that I learned that I didn't know. Remember, you don't know what you don't know. And about the MD hypocrisy, it kind of made my head explode, and that's not easy to do these days. Xanax. Everybody's heard of Xanax. Xanax is alprazolam. Alprazolam, it's a benzodiazepine. It's used to treat anxiety, and it's used as a sedative, right? It's used to treat anxiety, and it's used as a sedative. It is one of the most addictive substances in the pharmacological pharmacopoeia. It is as addictive as heroin. Benzodiazepine Xanax is as addictive as heroin. And people that try to get off of Xanax go through living hell, which is interesting because, again, it's the MD's fault. Why is it the MD's fault? Because remember, with the MDs, it's all about science. It's all about research. It's all about science-based, clinically verified, let's double-blind this and double-blind that. All of the studies that were given to the Food and Drug Administration to get them to approve Xanax as a drug that's safe for human beings to use were conducted for 7 or 14 days only. So the people that made Xanax spent a couple of $1 million, probably more than a couple of $1 million, spent millions of dollars testing Xanax on human beings for 7 days or for 14 days. And, there's no problem with Xanax if you take it for 7 days or 14 days. And if you take Xanax for 7 days or 14 days, there The withdrawal symptoms are blunted, and they're not very extreme in most people. In some people, they can be extremely extreme. Depends on your body weight. But most doctors, all doctors, there's no doctor that prescribes Xanax for only 14 days. You're on Xanax for months, years at a time. Months and years at a time, even though the research that the FDA, that the drug companies used to get the drug approved by the FDA only tracked Xanax's use for 14 days. The people that make that, the Food and Drug Administration, the people that approve that drug should be thrown in jail. They should have their medical licenses revoked. They should be ejected from the United States because they are responsible through their incompetence and oversight, responsible for massive amounts of human suffering. Because when you take a benzodiazepine like Xanax for more than 2 weeks, you get brutally addicted to it. Brutally addicted to it. And then you try to stop taking it, and it's a living, freaking nightmare. One of the most difficult drugs to withdraw from. One of the most difficult. Withdrawing from the drug is 1,000 times worse than the anxiety that you were prescribed the drug for in the first place. And yet, nobody goes to jail, nobody's hands are slapped, and the MDs continue to sleep soundly at night, prescribing this stuff for months and years at a time, even though the research only showed 14 days. Now, that's snake oil, isn't it? Isn't that like a variant of snake oil? Isn't that just incompetence on the doctor's part? It is. It's egregious oversight. I mean, they just missed it completely. They missed it. They took a swing and a miss. And human beings, United States citizens, people all around the world suffer as a result of their incompetence, and yet they continue to cash a paycheck every week. They continue to drive around in Mercedes and go to, their vacation spots. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And they're incompetent at what they do. And they have the audacity to say in the public forum that everybody but themselves is a quack. It's exactly the opposite. Ladies and gentlemen, the Patriot Act, it's about everything but being free. Pharmaceutical medicine, the way that they pitch it to you, is about everything but being healthy. You want to be afraid of something? Be afraid of the man or the woman with the MD after their name. Fire your MD now. Call me instead. Going to talk to Don in Florida when we come back. Stick around. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. It's the number to call to speak to me live today or any day. And if you're listening to the podcast, 855-347-3696. That's 855-347-3696. Big shout out to Terry Nickel today. Terry Nickel, who made Senior Executive Marketing Director with Longevity. Terry Nickel, way to go. It's people like you, Terry, who are going to change the world, and this is how we're going to do it. One person at a time, one family at a time, one family at a time. One town at a time, one county at a time, one province at a time, one city at a time, one country at a time. This is how we do it. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the message was lost. For want of a message, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the war was lost. All because of a horseshoe nail. Well, it works the other way as well. When we start small and just talk it up. You know what? I know a doctor that says you don't have to suffer with that. Did you know that your medical doctor is not interested in eliminating this disease? They're only interested in managing it? Or are you frustrated with drugs and surgery? Because I know a doctor who says you can support and promote the structure and function of that part of your body with medical nutrition. I think you should give this a try, man. No, that's it. That's the pitch. That's what we teach people to say. And when they say it, people listen because Again, we're not selling anything. We're showing people the truth. And the truth resonates. The truth rings. The truth reaches the part of the person's body-mind that knows the truth. Your body knows the truth. Your mind knows the truth. All you need to do is expose yourself to it, and the rest happens virtually automatically. Longevity distributors have the easiest job in the world. All they do is tell people the truth. And that beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. Let's go to Dawn in Florida and see what's up. Hey, Dawn. Thanks for the phone call. You are live.
Hi, Dr. Glidden. It's your friend from Florida. How are you doing?
I'm good. What's happening? I'm jealous that you're living in Florida. That's what I'm doing.
It's actually cold here today. It's like 70 degrees.
Oh, my heart breaks for you. 70 degrees, and that's cold. I don't even want to tell you what it is in Chicago.
I have a friend who has type 2 diabetes, and I guess they're getting real concerned because she's losing vision in her eyes. She has to get injections in her eyes, and they're concerned about her eyes and her kidneys, and her blood sugar is spiking, and she's taking insulin and blood pressure medication. So what can you advise?
Well, number one, she needs to question the validity of the treatment that she's on and the effectiveness of the treatment that she's on. I mean, she just needs to take a long, hard look at how her health has been since she's given herself over to the MDs. That's the first thing that I would talk to her about is, look, I mean, how are you doing since you've been following the MD's advice? I mean, how's it going? Well, it's not going so good because the blood sugar isn't being handled. And because the blood sugar issue isn't being handled, everything else is breaking down. It's ironic, really, that one of the main causes of tissue destruction, gangrene, and, you go blind and you lose your fingers, lose your toes, lose your feet, lose your hands, lose your legs, due to diabetic, the gangrene and neuropathy of diabetes. It's because it happens because of the insulin. Elevated levels of blood sugar are also in play here, but really the insulin is one of the big bad voodoo daddies here. And what do the MDs throw at blood sugar? Insulin. So, really, I would just have a heartfelt conversation with her and say, look, since you've been following the advice of contemporary medical doctors, what's happened to your health? How are you doing with that? How's that working for you? Because people trust their MDs way too much. And they do that because they don't know that there's another way. They just don't know. It's not their fault. It's the doctor's fault, honestly. People don't know there's another way, and people really just kind of get in this groove. Oh, I have to do what my doctor says. I have to do what my doctor says. Well, no, you really don't have to do what your doctor says, especially when what your doctor says isn't working. But, it's the rare individual that thinks about it that way, because most people can't even conceptualize the notion that there's somebody besides their MD who knows what's better for them. They just can't wrap their head around that. They can't do that. It's like slavery, right? Remember that? You know that song, Amazing Grace? You know that song? It's a nice song.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. You know who wrote that? Amazing Grace was written by a slaver. I forget the guy's name. But he was carrying a boatload of slaves from Africa to the New World, right, North America. And halfway across, or whatever, he had a revelation, right? His eyes could see that the people on the ship were actual living human beings with just as much rights as he had, that they weren't animals, which he had been led to believe. He had a breakthrough. He had a breakthrough, an intellectual breakthrough, that the wool was lifted from his eyes, and he saw through the grace, he said it was grace, that these are people, not animals. And guess what he did? He turned the boat around, sailed back to Africa, let them all go. It's a pretty great story when you think about it, but it speaks volumes to the human condition. Because this is the way that most people are. Most people have the wool pulled over their eyes thinking that the MD is, the medical deity and knows what's best for them. And they can't even conceptualize, they can't even begin to think that there must be another way. There must be. What do you mean? There's somebody who knows more than my MD? Well, you're crazy. They can't wrap their heads around it. So, knowledge is power, and we need to really try to get a foot into somebody's worldview. We need to really try to have people have breakthroughs. Every time you talk to somebody about this, you try to have them have a breakthrough, just like that guy who wrote Amazing Grace. It's possible, and it happens all the time. And we need to be the agents of that change. And, it sounds like a big, grandiose deal, but it's not, because inside of every human being, there is a little piece of them that knows that what you're talking about is true. There is. There's a little tiny piece of everybody that knows that what you're talking about is true. You just need to find a way to fan that flame and make it bigger, and that's how we're going to make a difference. So, to support and promote the structure and function of her body-mind, the recommendation would easily be, because remember, healing is easy, and this is generic boilerplate foundation medical nutrition. One healthy blood sugar pack, 2.0 would probably be best. One healthy blood sugar pack, 2.0. 2 bottles of selenium, and 1 bottle of the plain plant minerals, not the cherry mints. 1 bottle of the plain plant minerals per 100 pounds of body weight per month. And a diet that's extremely high in antioxidants. Or, if money's not an issue, 5 boxes of Triple Treat chocolate a month. I mean, that's a problem, right? And Triple Treat chocolate is glycemic index friendly. There's only a couple of grams of sugar in each piece. It shouldn't do anything to her blood sugar levels, even if she is diabetic. So that's what I would lean on. A healthy blood sugar pack, 1 healthy blood sugar pack, 2 selenium, 1 bottle of plant minerals per 100 pounds of body weight per month, plus a diet that's extremely high in antioxidants, of course, right? It goes without saying, eliminate the 10 bad foods, and look to see what happens. Now, we have to be careful with people with blood sugar issues and people with blood pressure issues, because you don't know how fast this program's going to work. It might work in 3 days. I've seen it work in 3 days. I've seen blood pressure of long-standing, decades-long blood pressure. It normalizes in 3 days. Wow. It's like, what? How did that happen? Well, we don't know how it happened, but it was the wisdom of the body that made it happen. And all bets are off when you start filling the nutritional tank up with science-based, clinically verified, effective medical nutrition. So we must counsel these people every time, whether it's a blood sugar issue or a blood sugar issue. They have to be Johnny on the spot, measuring their numbers every day. And most people that have been diabetic for, more than 5 years, they can't be bothered to do that. They don't want to do that. They don't want to measure their blood pressure. They're having a hard enough time just thinking straight, because there's so much flippin' sugar in their blood. It's crazy. So please counsel her, if she agrees to go on the program, that she has to get into the habit, if she's not already, of measuring her blood sugars every day and measuring her blood pressure every day. And when either of those numbers starts to come down, she needs, with medical supervision, to reduce the blood pressure meds and reduce the blood sugar meds appropriately. If she doesn't do that, she's going to hurt herself. But it's easy to do. It's not hard at all. She just has to be mindful of the process. And quite frankly, these people should be much more concerned about why their MDs haven't fixed this problem than concerned about the loss of her vision, because it's it's not working. What they're doing isn't working. It's just not working. And so she needs to take a completely different stand altogether. And does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for your help. I appreciate it.
Anytime, Don. Keep up the good work, and remember, we are all jealous of those who live below the Mason-Dixon line. Call me anytime. From Florida to Georgia. Okay, and Georgia's probably going to rub it in also, although I think they're having an unusual cold snap in Georgia. Hey, Kay, thanks for the phone call. You are live.
Hey, Doc, I want to first of all start by saying thank you for all that you do. Every time I come to the line, I'm going to tell you that. I really appreciate you. And as a matter of fact, today we're not in Georgia. We're helping people in St. Louis today.
Oh, good girl. See that? You are, you're all over the U.S. I love that. Gotta love that.
Yeah, all over. And she's actually on the phone. She can give you more information than myself. Lizette, are you there? Okay, I don't know where she went, but what she was telling me is that actually there's a 4-year-old girl who she knows her mom also is concerned because her white blood cell count is down and her symptoms are going to be flu-like symptoms.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to do for the child, but what can you do? And we want to help her today.
Well, you know, white blood cells, that's part of the immune system. It's the police force of the body. So when we have, a broken bone, we give the body bone nutrients. When we have a compromised immune system like we have here, we give the body nutrients for the immune system. And it's interesting, most people don't know this, but the immune system is made from protein. Wow. It's like, bones are made from minerals. Well, the immune system's made from protein. So when anybody is immunocompromised, they need to start eating more protein. So that would be meat, fish, chicken, rice and beans together in a meal, mixed salted nuts, eggs. She needs to be eating more protein, and I'll dial in the nutritional supplements for her when we come back, Kay. Stick around. I appreciate everything that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we do it, one person at a time. Fire your MD now. 866-582-9933. Give me a call, why don't you? Just like Kay from Georgia did. Kay, are you still with me? Come on in, Kay. Hello, Kay. Come on in, Kay.
Oh, yes, I had you on mute. I'm here. Thank you, I'm here.
Okay, so in addition to a diet, so every time this child eats something, I want half of what's on their plate to be protein. And the protein that all other proteins are compared to is the chicken egg. It's interesting. The protein that all other proteins are compared to is the chicken egg. It's impossible to get a better protein than a chicken egg or a duck egg or a goose egg. I don't care. A chicken egg is the deal. And we like people to prepare chicken eggs soft scrambled in butter, soft boiled, or poached. And if you soft boil it or poach it, then when you eat it with butter. And put some salt on everything. Salt on everything. So eggs, and then some more eggs with butter and salt. And life is good. Also mixed salted nuts. That's a nice protein source. Meat, chicken, fish, rice, and beans together in a meal, all protein. What we would recommend you avoid for a protein source would be soy. Don't have any type of soy protein. So no tofu.
And that's what she had today.
Yeah, well, there you go. So that's not a good idea. We don't like kids to be having soy because soy has plant-derived chemical in there that mimics estrogen. So if you do too much soy, and it's relatively easy to do too much soy if you're a little kid, because remember, one little soy bar to someone who weighs 50 pounds, is like 7 to someone who weighs 200 pounds because the body mass index. So it's a big deal. Most people don't think about it like that, but that's the correct way to think about it. And in addition to that, of course, all she needs is baseline fundamental nutrition, so it would be the Healthy Start Pack and selenium appropriate for body weight. So 1 Healthy Start Pack and 2 selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month, and life is good. I would have her maintain that therapeutic program for 8 weeks. 8 weeks. And then I'd have the blood retested. And, of course, Kay, you know this, but I'm going to say it for the listening audience. This girl, her mother, her father, everybody in the family, you, me, everybody must stop eating the 10 bad foods. They have to do it. It's mandatory. And once people wrap their brains around that and actually do it, life gets better and everybody feels better. And That's how we're going to change the world. Sound good, girl? Anything? Is there anything else?
Today, everything's all great with everything you said. I'll be calling you back in the near future. I'll be here for another 5 days.
All right, Kay. I'll look forward to it. This Saturday, I'm going to be in Cleveland, by the way, giving a lecture this Saturday in Cleveland. We'll have more information about that tomorrow, but look for Dr. Glidden Saturday morning in Cleveland. Thanks a lot, Kay. Keep up the good work. Hey, look at who's in the house. Lorna is calling for all the way from jolly old London. Hey, Lorna. Thanks for the phone call.
Hello, Dr. Glidden.
How's it going?
Yes, thank you. My son has recently been diagnosed with kidney failure.
Yeah.
He's age 23.
Yeah.
Always been quite, a healthy young man. But, he was diagnosed with end-stage kidney failure.
All of a sudden?
End-stage kidney failure.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, just kind of out of the blue, that diagnosis popped up?
That's right, yes. About 6 weeks leading up to it, he started with diarrhea and vomiting, and nosebleeds. And, it was quite difficult getting him to go to the doctors. But thank God when we did, and they rushed him in. And, do you have
do you have any idea whatsoever? Was there anything different in his world? Did he start working at, some industrial facility where he was exposed to chemicals, or was there anything different in his life?
No, not at all. In fact, he wasn't the type that went out an awful lot.
That's interesting. Lorna, we're up against a hard break. I'm going to dial this in for you when we come back. If you're calling from London and you need to hang up and then call us back at 6 after the hour, I'll take you number one. Otherwise, just stay tuned, and I'll pick you up when we come back for hour 2, ladies and gentlemen, coming up today, November 13th, 2013. Stick around.